Tony Blain. This is election coverage. Honestly, I should have done this a week and a half ago, this podcast episode, about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago after the election. Tony Blain, that recall was successful. He got smoked. 80-20. He lost in that recall election. I mean, when was the last time you saw an election that went down on an 80-20 vote? I mean, that almost never happens. That's amazing. That's a landslide. Clearly the people of Poway didn't want him, and he is gone. It is interesting, though, that there is a faction here in Poway that were trying to support Vaus, not necessarily because they liked Vaus and his character and what his policies were about, but it just seemed that this certain faction here in Poway were anti-Mayor Steve Vaus, and therefore, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, because Steve Vaus and Tony Blain are at odds. There were a lot of, I guess I should say, Vaus enemies that were rooting for Blain to survive. It's kind of funny how these kind of dynamics work in a small town. But what's interesting here, I think it's worth commenting, is that he's been indicted by the county DA. My understanding is that he was serving abroad. He's in the Army Reserves as a doctor. I don't know if he's come back stateside. I don't know if he's here locally. I'm not sure what the process is, but I think we're going to find out more about it. Meanwhile, the city council in Poway is trying to figure out how they're going to fill the slot. Are they going to appoint someone? Are they going to have an election? My understanding is they're definitely going to have an election. The question is are they going to have an election at the soonest possible date, which would be in April? Or would they have to have an election and just do it in June for the regular June, off cycle 2026 non-presidential vote and bake the replacement of Tony Blain into that existing scheduled election? And I know the city of Poway is trying to evaluate costs and what makes more sense. And I get you. I mean, my understanding is you got to pay anyways for any election they run. Even if they bundle it with the state primary election or this, in June, there's still a cost to the city of Poway. To do it exclusively for us in April, probably more expensive. But what's the right answer here? Now, if I had my druthers, I do the election as fast as possible, even if it costs more money. We're only talking about one small council district, not the whole city, just District 2. I would have a special election, and I would get it going quick. And the main point is that we want to have representation that is backed by the vote of the people, and to do it as soon as possible, particularly given the fact that there has been so much animosity towards Mayor Vaus and the history of so many appointments that we've had. And we can explain the whys and the hows of all the previous historical examples and why they were appointed, or they should have been appointed or shouldn't have been appointed. But the end result is there's been a lot of appointments. And I think that erodes the trust of the electorate. So I would say do the election in April. But in the meantime, I mean, right now it's, November 18th. I'd say appoint a person in the short term immediately. And that way District 2 will have representation. District 2, can be potentially a tie-breaking vote. I mean, you don't want to have two ties on the city council. So get Tony Blain's replacement replaced right away. Who are the people that are being recruited? I'm sure Mayor Vaus has a name or two in mind. In fact, I'm sure there's somebody that has been selected by Vaus or the people that are supportive of Vaus to run for this office. They probably have been getting their ducks in a row here for a while, knowing this was likely coming. I don't know who that person is. Is that person one of the previous candidates, either Jared Wilson or Vanessa Springett? I think there's some arguments to be made that maybe they are potential suitors to come in and replace Tony Blain. Or is there someone new? I don't know. But I think we're gonna find out. I do know that good old Tony Russo in town, who's a local Powegian who's on social media quite a bit. He seemed to be hinting that he was interested in this, but my understanding is that Tony lives in not Tony Blain, Tony Russo. Tony Russo lives in District 3, and we're talking about District 2. So I don't think Tony Russo is going to be a candidate for that job. But we're going to find out more on this. It's just kind of a sad drama here, to see one of your sitting council members indicted for perjury. And there was one more charge. It was perjury and one other item. Forgive me. But this isn't good. No, not good at all. It's just a shame. I mean, Poway is such a great city, and there have been numerous negative stories that have emerged over the years, whether it was the $1 billion bond or the corruption of our school board superintendent, John Collins. We had the terrible Chabad shooting. When was that? That was probably in 2020 or 2021. No, actually, no, excuse me. I think that might've been 2019 when that happened. There have been a whole history of other items here. I want to celebrate more good news is my point. It's just kind of a shame that we have to deal with some of this muck. But at any rate, Tony Blain's going to get his due process. We'll see if those charges stick. My hunch is if the DA is going to indict him, especially if he's and he was at the time of his indictment, a sitting city council member, I mean, that's big. That's not something that a DA is going to take on knowing that there's a risk that they may lose because it's such a high profile case. So we're going to find out, but my gut's telling me it might be a rough go for Tony Blain. We're going to find out more as we go.